we just got a look at a bunch of brand new Andor Season 2 footage in a special look featurette dropped today by Disney+. There's a ton you could break down in this teaser, but one detail shines a light on what could be the biggest plot point of Season 2, the Gorman massacre. What does that mean? Why is it important? What does it mean for the Empire and the Rebellion? Well, in Season 1, we heard Mon Mothma and others discussing the plight of the Ghormans. That naturally perked a lot of ears because in both Star Wars Legends and Canon, as I'll explain in a moment, the Gorman massacre was an atrocity committed by the Empire against a group of civilians. Obviously, in Andor, one of the big themes has been exposing Imperial oppression and cruelty and using that to further rebellions across the galaxy. Many of us assumed that the event itself would happen in Season 2, and wouldn't you know it, in this special look teaser during one of the scenes, you can see the subtitle, Protesters Singing in Gore. Gore clearly being the language of the Gorman people. So let's try to figure out what's going on. And again, Andor Season 1 tells us that there's significant tension between the Gorman people and the Empire. The Empire has cut off the shipping lanes to Gorman. There also seems to be a resistance front forming on the planet, and it's something the galaxy is talking about. Either way, based on context from other pieces of media and also this new trailer, it seems clear that the Gorman people are also peacefully protesting the Empire and something terrible happens leading to an atrocity which will spark rebellion across the galaxy. There's some dialogue which appears to be between Deidre Miro and Major Partagaz of the ISB, which I find very interesting, where she says the insurgents are armed, he says we're counting on it. It's my belief that the Empire is looking to take this peaceful protest and stomp it out violently as a message to everyone across the galaxy, and I think we'll probably see either some form of agitator or some basically false pretense which will have the Empire move in and whatever happens from there. It even looks like it could be Miro who organizes the troopers to fire on the civilians. Either way, this will be, I think, a very disturbing moment in the show. It'll probably be a very emotional moment, and it's going to drastically change how people approach the Empire, specifically Mon Mothma. So far, we've discussed what the Gorman massacre will look like in Andor Season 2, but what's the overall story here? I'll start with Canon, although please note the Gorman massacre was actually a creation of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. One of the plot lines of Star Wars Rebels was essentially the rescuing of Mon Mothma. She moves from being a member of the Imperial Senate, albeit one critical of the regime, to a straight-up fugitive, and it's all because of the Gorman massacre. After it happens, she actually blames Palpatine personally, something you could not do at this point in time, and her actions are labeled as treasonous. Right now I'm reading Mask of Fear. It takes place a few months after Revenge of the Sith. Just some very light spoilers, but at that point Mon Mothma believes that the system as it existed within the Republic, sort of the heart of democracy, still exists in the Empire, and that with the right legislation and the right politicking that they can essentially make Palpatine powerless and return the power to the Senate and thus to the people. As she witnesses more atrocities, both personally and across the galaxy, obviously her opinion changes, and I guess the Gorman massacre was the thing which led her to decide open rebellion is the only true path forward. We don't get many more details about what the actual atrocity was, and that's true for the rest of Star Wars canon. All we know is that thousands of people were killed in some terrible event, which seemed to be completely unjustified. I mean, killing civilians, definitely unjustified, but it seems like the Empire even had trouble with the propaganda arm on this one. I did kind of wonder whether Gormans would simply be humans from the planet Gorman, whether they would be aliens, maybe a mix of both. It seems like they are mostly humans. But as I mentioned, the idea of a Gorman massacre goes back to Star Wars Legends. Way back in the Rebel Alliance sourcebook, we get the following. Gorman is a small planet located in Cern sector, just outside the core. The citizens of Gorman were staging a peaceful demonstration against new taxes. They stage a sit-in at the spaceport, blocking all of the port's landing pads. A Republic warship arrived to collect the taxes, landing in spite of the citizens, killing dozens and wounding hundreds more. The commander in charge of the warship, one Captain Tarkin, was not prosecuted for the murder. In fact, he was promoted. Mon Mothma continues, after Gorman, Bail realized that the Republic was dead. He began to use all his influence and political skill to aid us while still pretending to be against me on the floor of the Senate. He was on many influential committees and was able to funnel money, weapons, and most importantly, information to us without anyone suspecting. Obviously, the backstory of the Empire wasn't fully fleshed out when the Rebel Alliance sourcebook was written. If you read even the original novelization for A New Hope, George Lucas originally envisioned the Republic to be slowly corrupted and turned into the Empire. Palpatine is basically just a corrupt politician who does it over time. Maybe that doesn't make an entertaining movie. Either way, it changed, so the Republic sort of in an instant becomes the Empire. But either way, the Gorman massacre, even in Star Wars Legends, very clearly led to the birth of the Rebel Alliance, which I find very interesting. It seems like the event will be different here, with it instead being Imperial troops open firing on protesters, but that may not be the case. It does look like they may be protesting on some sort of landing field, so I wouldn't be surprised if that element was brought into the small screen as well. I've got to say, through this entire process, I've been really surprised how many people are familiar with the Gorman massacre, because it is something that happened in the canon, and I guess Star Wars Rebels made a pretty big deal out of it, but in the Legends EU, it was something talked about in source books and sort of in the histories of the Rebel Alliance, but not really a whole lot more than that. Either way, I do think one of the big themes of Andor, of Mask of Fear, of sort of this entire era of Star Wars storytelling is how people can be pushed into extremism and how sometimes violent revolution is necessary to overthrow authoritarianism. I said this season, I want to see Andor become more and more extreme, the Rebel Alliance take more actions, and it seems like that's going to be the case. I know I've talked about Mask of Fear a lot, but it's interesting to see how different every character was 18 years before the events of Rogue One or A New Hope. Like Saw Gerrera, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, they all change in their own ways, but they all also start from different positions. Like, yeah, Saw gets really crazy, but he wasn't as militant at the beginning, though he was certainly more so than Mon Mothma. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of Andor Season 2. The only thing I will mention is the planet with the rolling hills. We got a better look at it. I'm almost certain it is Dakar. So that's cool, and I do think that other planet is probably Dantooine. Anyway, see you guys soon.